So, I mean, why did you get into being a monk? How does that even come about?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. So I never grew up religious or spiritual or inclined at all. I was totally what you expect any teen in London to be. I was doing everything, drugs, sleeping around, multiple relationships, trying to make money, doing everything that you expect. And then every week I'd go to hear a speaker at my university. So where I was studying, they'd always have celebrities, entrepreneurs, influencers at that time coming to speak. And I used to love rags to riches stories. Like I loved hearing about people who went from nothing to something. I was always fascinated. So anyway, one week I found out that a monk was invited to speak. And I was like, I don't want to go. Who wants to go listen to a monk speak?
Yeah.
And one of my friends was really into monks at the time. And he was just like, no, you got to come. And I was like, I'll come as long as we go to a bar afterwards. And he was like, yeah, sure. So that was like my in. I was like, I'm only coming if we're going out afterwards. And he was like, yeah, we'll definitely go out afterwards. So I turn up and here's this guy. He's Indian. He's dressed in robes. He's got an Indian accent, none of which is impressive to me at the time. I'm born and raised in London. But when he starts speaking, I'm like totally captivated. And I'm just like, wow, like this guy knows so much. He's so wise. He's happy. He looks like he's living a meaningful life. And I was just like, what does he have that everyone I've met, like I've met people with money, I've met people with homes, I've met people with great faces and abs and all the rest of it. I've met people with beautiful partners. Like, what does this guy have? And I realized what he had was he has happiness. Like he was happy.
Yeah.
Were you unhappy?
I wasn't. I was like at a place where I had access to a lot of stuff going for me in my life at that age, at like 18. And I was like, things are going for me. I was like about to go off and work for a huge organization. I was making enough money. I had a great looking girlfriend and all the rest of it. Like, everything was going in the right direction. And then all of a sudden, this guy made me believe that there was more than that. And I was like, wow.
Was there like one thing that he said that really stuck out to you? Because I got a chance, ironically, to meditate with Deepak.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Deepak's a friend. Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
He's awesome.
Oh, cool.
And I saw the same kind of things. And I saw this like inner peace that is so visible when you watch him and when you kind of spend time with him. But when I left, I don't think I wasn't inspired to become a monk. And I wasn't inspired to become like I loved it. And I still, from time to time, practice meditation with these guys. But
wow.
Was it something that was said or that he showed specifically that made you think like, wow, this is the route to inner peace and happiness?
Well, I found out afterwards that he gave up jobs at Google and Microsoft to be a monk. Yeah. And what he was talking about was the best use of your talents is when you use them to help other people. So when you use whatever talent you have to serve other people, to make a difference in people's lives, whether it's making people laugh, whether it's making people smile, whether it's moving people emotionally, or whether it's doing charity work. I heard you're doing a charity ride in London, which is awesome. Like I want to hear all about it. Like
when's that coming, by the way?
It's in the works.
Right.
We'll see. Awesome. Maybe we'll see you out there. Maybe we'll get you involved.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. I'd love to. Genuinely, seeing as it's where I grew up. So he was saying that when you use what you have to help other people, that's when you're going to find happiness. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that before because everyone's always talking about getting. And this guy's talking about giving. So I spent from 18 to 22, aged 18 to 22, I spent every summer holiday, half of it in bars, steakhouses, clubs, living the life in London, interning at some of the biggest finance organizations, and then spending the other half living in India as a monk. So I basically was testing both lifestyles to the extreme at that time. And I consider myself an extreme experimenter. And that was one of the most extreme experiments I've ever done, where literally like 6 weeks I'd be living the high life in London and 6 weeks I'd be sleeping on the floor and waking up at 4 a.m. every day. And that convinced me that monk life was good for me.
Did you ever, that's crazy to be going back and forth like that. Did you ever meet the guys, or do you know anything about the guys from Headspace, the app?
I do, yeah. So I never met them. I know Andy Puttycombe now. Yeah, he's awesome. Great guy.
His story is intense. Like he went through all of that terrible like heartache and what was his sister died and his wife or his fiance broke up with him or whatever. And he gave up a very similar trajectory to success. He was like a huge agency guy, right? In London, I think, right? Yeah. And he became a monk as well, right?
He did. Absolutely.
And then launched Headspace, which is now one of the most, successful mindfulness apps. It's crazy to see the similarities between your story, and it's just insane.
Yeah.
It's a crazy story.
Are you would you say you're an extremist?
I believe so. When I get into something, I'm all in. Like I fall in love with it. I get addicted.
Can that ever be a bad thing?
Of course it can. God, yeah, it depends what you're addicted to and absorbed to. So at that time, I was addicted to testing two different lifestyles. One was breaking me, one was building me. And so, yeah, it depends what you're addicted and absorbed to. So, the quality of being addicted is awesome. It's what you're addicted to. That's the challenge.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. That's a dope, very accurate soundbite that I agree with. Yeah. Because like I'm addicted to content creating, but there was a time in my life where I was addicted to video games.
Wrestling.
I played World of Warcraft, and it was horrible. Like, no, seriously, I would sit at my computer. I got kicked out of my guild one time, and I was crying on the floor.
And you're still really bad at video games.
Hold on. I am a very good builder in Fortnite.
Spencer's the shooter, though.
Yeah, my boy's got lasers.
Nice.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like at the time you saw that monk speak, would you have considered yourself in a rut or unsure of what is to come in life, and then you took a big step to make something happen? A lot of people are afraid to make that big step, afraid to jump into 3 years of monkhood. If you're a kid in Kansas and you're 18, you're unsure what's to come in life, and maybe you're feeling a bit down, questionable about your future, what would you recommend?
My biggest recommendation would be experiment with a ton of stuff. You don't need to go do something for 3 years. You can do it for 3 days. But just go and experiment with everything. Like, we've got access to everything now. You could experiment with meditation. You could experiment shadowing an entrepreneur. You could experiment with making content. You could experiment with anything. Yeah. And because we don't experiment with enough stuff, we don't know. That's why we feel unsure. That's why we feel insecure.